On the 27th of April, the Banking Royal Commission was in full flight. The banks were collapsing. The press was full of really bad news on what the really bad banks had done. We were hearing terrible things about what financial advisors were doing to customers. The news was terrible. The banks were involved in money laundering. The banks were actively encouraging false loans and overlending to people. We were hearing all of the bad news. On the 27th of April, I received a phone call from a gentleman in the country. He was a farmer and he had a portfolio in his self-managed super funds that he had been recommended to own by his financial advisors over the years, and he was telling me that he was losing money on them and that his financial advisors were telling him to sell on Monday, the 30th of April. Westpac had closed at $28.13 on the 26th of April, and they were now telling him, after years of telling him to buy and building up a portfolio, they were telling him to sell his bank Westpac shares. And he was very, very concerned and very, very scared, and he said, my son says you're good, he's seen you on the television and he's followed you for years and he thinks that I should talk to you. And I said, okay. And I explained what I had advised my Profit Hunter Group members, who are professional advisors, financial advisors and professional traders, professionals in the markets, as well as mums and dads just like you, and self-managed super funds, just investors, people just like you. And I was advising them to buy ANZ at $26.10 and not to sell bank shares on the 26th of April. ANZ bottomed at $26.11. You can't have perfection. So what I had to tell my Profit Hunter Group members about an hour later was, we're going to buy at $26.25. And so I told this gentleman, don't worry, you'll probably be all right. It will bounce from here. Don't follow your financial advisor's advice. I will help you, give you some ways of getting in, and I'll manage your stop losses. So he didn't sell. Westpac rose strongly. The banks rose strongly, aside from CBA. CBA didn't rise strongly. And this week it was wonderful because he got to sell his shares at $30 or above, based on my advice before the dividend was paid. And he saw over the past couple of days that Westpac had fallen after the dividend had gone ex-dividend. Westpac had gone ex-dividend. That he can now buy back those Westpac shares for less than the fully franked credit adjusted dividend payment, and he would pick up a lot of money. And so he saved about 7%, just around 6 or 7% on his share sales from what his financial advisor was saying in 2 weeks. I love that. That's just I'm going to call that a claim. I'll claim that, and I think this is one of the reasons I do what I do. It's fantastic to really make sure somebody doesn't get panicked out of something on bad advice. On May 29th, I'm going to be assessing all of the banks for my customers. You're invited. You can come along. You can click on the link below, and I'd like to see people who are interested in bank shares. Maybe you're nervous about whether the banks will continue to pay the dividends given the fines that they may experience after these royal commissions, given the troubles that they've put their customers through and the pain. Will their share price go up? Will their share price go down? Will the banks actually suffer from the fact that now, as using cryptocurrencies, that the customer can now make their own payments without the use of the banks. So it's a fascinating times in the banks. It's tough times for bank shareholders. If you're feeling the pain, you might get some good news, and you might get the reason to get out of your bank shares from my webinar on and report on the 29th of May, 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you can't make it, you just get a recording and you can ask me questions of your own banks. I'll be covering the major banks: Westpac, ANZ, NAB, CBA, Bendigo Bank, Bank of Queensland. And if you're doing the banks, you do yourself a service, click on the link below and you'll see my opinion of the bank structures, and I look forward to serving you at that webinar. Cheers, bye.